All right, gamers, internet freaks, welcome to Turk Van Go Games. I'm your host, Turk Van Go. This is my channel, TVG Games Co. 2. I have a channel that's just TVG Games Co. That's where I review probably the naughtiest, silliest games you've ever seen. So if you've come from that channel, thank you so much. If you're new, I don't know if my other channel's for you. If you're into like weird dating simulators, weird anime games, then it's for you. If not, if you just like movies, reactions, discussing movies, analyzing movies, seeing new dope movies, then this is the right place for you. I have a Patreon. It's patreon.com/TVGG. That's where you can go and see my main content. I'm also going to upload this content on there since I want to have this channel and my other one, but I'm going to keep it at the same Patreon. So if you want to support me and you go there and you see some things that might be kind of weird, that's fine. You can just support me and then catch these videos, which I'll upload earlier than YouTube sees them. And that's how I support myself and my two dogs, or at least I'm trying to, because, as you know, today's tough. I know you're struggling, I'm struggling. Any help I can get, I would really appreciate. But here's what this channel is going to be about. It's going to be like kind of a reaction channel, except everything I want to react to or watch, I want it to be top tier, S tier, 8 to 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10. Films, short films, any type of media or art that is S tier, I want to react to or analyze if I've already seen it. Tonight I have a special one because it's Halloween. I figure we watch something that's more macabre, more creepy, more dark for this entire month because I love horror movies. So if you have suggestions for horror movies, sorry, I just drank a sugar-free Red Bull, so it's like all this gas is coming up. But if you have suggestions of what you think is an S tier movie, leave them in the comment below. I've seen a lot of movies, so I'll let you know if I've seen it or not. And if not, I'll check it out and I'll make a video on it. Okay? And again, I want people to be able to come to my channel for only S tier movies, shows, and my reaction or analysis to them. Now, this is a special one. This is probably one of my favorite movies of all time, Seven, by David Fincher, starring Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman, also with Gwyneth Paltrow and Kevin Spacey. If you haven't seen this movie, it's diabolical. It's beautifully shot. It's dark. It's dank. It's cold. And it's probably one of the few masterpieces of cinema that was made in the last 30 years. There's a few masterpieces out there, but not a lot of them. You could arguably say there were more masterpieces back in the day. In the 60s, the 50s was a dark period for movies, not really that great. 60s had some good movies. 70s had some killer action and Western movies. The 80s, we all know that some of the most iconic movies came out of the 80s. Terrible ones too, but some of the most iconic. And from then on, I mean, just every decade had really good movies, but masterpieces are a little far and few between. So I'm going to feature a lot of those. And then, like I said, if you have any suggestions, you let me know. But we're going to start Seven, and I hope you guys enjoy this with me. I'm going to try and take a little more of a deep dive into this. I'll try not to stop it and talk too much, but just for YouTube purposes, I can't just play the movie. So it's going to have to stop frequently. I'll make comments on it, or I'll take the audio out of it, okay? Thank you guys so much for tuning in, by the way. Hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and let's do this. This movie might have one of the greatest title sequences I've seen in movies, and I forgot the guy's name, but the guy who made the title sequence with Nine Inch Nails or Trent Reznor's song um, went on to make like other sequences. I think he did Spider-Man. I think he did Dawn of the Dead. I probably saw this when I was like 7 or 8 years old. I would sit there and just daydream about how insane it was that this killer took like a year or two to kill certain people and set this up. And it was just like a weird, evil Count of Monte Cristo style killer. Instead of being a hero, he was a killer. The darkness of this movie is pretty amazing too. It's always interesting too. Like everyone besides Somerset and Brad Pitt are so like disconnected from all this. Brad Pitt being like the young new idealist, and Somerset being like the guy who's empathetic but sees that all of this as kind of moot and that it's just going to happen over and over again. It's like quite an It's quite an interesting dynamic. Also, I don't think there's a scene in this movie where they're outside that it doesn't rain. I think it rains in every scene.
All this have to get transferred.
That little person like just bumping into him. All these little details matter so much. All these bleak colors, these dark greens and grays. I'm a sucker for any like old school detective style movies. I love detective thrillers. I really do.
Taco Bell. I've worked homicide 5 years.
Not here.
I understand that.
Well, over the next 7 days, detective, you'll do me the favor of remembering that.
The juxtaposition of their two lives as well. Like when you see Somerset in his home, everything is neat. How Brad Pitt's character lives. You know, his tie is already tied. He just wears it over and over again. His shirts are wrinkled. When I was a kid and we used to go to the city all the time, my dad worked in the city in New York. New York was very different back when I was a kid than it is now. Now it's like kind of super clean and gentrified. When I was a kid, man, New York was wild. My inspiration as a kid was this movie. The darkness of it, just the cutting of the fingers and the blood and the imperfectness of how this, you know, the titles in weird places and the cutting of the video here made me realize that art doesn't have to be perfect. It can be dark, it can be violent, it can be disgusting. But this is such an epic intro. Unfortunately, I won't be able to show the whole thing, but I suggest you guys look it up. What's interesting about this too is like if you really read, I used to pause this all the time and like read everything. This like story here, I don't know where it's from, but it's like about a man becoming a woman and sexual perversion and all this like weird stuff. And if you really pause and see like all of the literature or what the person's writing down, it's kind of interesting to see like you're getting a glimpse into John Doe's like serial killer mind. Right there, I thought that was one of the coolest shots. Knowing that this person is so meticulous, so patient, that instead of just getting a book, I guess there's composition books in the movie, but instead of just getting that, in this instance, they're actually like sewing together pages. It's raining, it's cold, it's green. Green is like the hue of green and gray in this movie. You see it a lot.
What exactly was the point of the conversation you were about to get into?
Don't know. How many times has Barney Fife found dead bodies when they're dead?
The set design in this movie is masterful. Everything looks like it has grease or like dirt on it or some sort of... Your hands would get dirty just by touching it. What a musty, dirty home. Yeah, there's bugs and cockroaches everywhere. Ugh. That's got to be one of the most painful ways to go, is like stretching your stomach out, eating to death. Look at all these details, like all the little jars of food, and whoever set designed this is incredible. And that's barbed wire too. I wonder if this is like an actual person, like a big person, or like, it must be, right? This must be actually like an actual person, because when they lift the head up, it's too realistic to be like a mannequin or like a... They make all these areas look so lived in. Yeah, this is a real person. Has to be. Brad Pitt was so good in this movie. Yeah, when he pulls the head up here, you can tell it's a real person. Look at the rain. Look how hard it's raining. How would you even be able to see through the rain? It's raining harder on his side than it is on Brad's side. Now I wonder here, this has to be like a puppet body, right? Like a mannequin. This guy's been in a ton of movies. Damn, he had a hematoma in his rectus. Ugh, that doesn't sound good. Anytime you got a hematoma in your rectus, you're probably not having a good day. I like how Brad Pitt kept his hair in this movie and then in Fight Club. Didn't David Fincher make that movie too? Is this Arlie Ermy? Arlie Ermy rules. Didn't he pass away a few years ago? Arlie Ermey's eyebrows, man, they were epic, huh? Morgan Freeman was right here too. He would have never solved this case had he been on his own or with another partner. Detective Somerset's insight and instincts in this case combined with Brad Pitt's like moments of genius by just suggesting things out of coincidence, caused them to solve this.
He doesn't want it. Fuck him. Sorry, but see you later. Have a nice time.
Even though Kevin Spacey had plans, the real question for this movie is, would have, I'm getting ahead of myself. You've never seen this movie before. But if the ending would have been different had Brad Pitt never have encountered in the middle of the movie, in the second act, if that encounter never happened, maybe the ending would have been entirely different. And I think it would have been. When I was a kid, that's how newspapers would be out. God, there were newspapers everywhere, all over the streets and the trash, floating in the wind, raining. Still it's raining. Does he have a gold tooth or a silver tooth? That was back in the day when people used to have gold and silver teeth, man. When I was a kid, you used to see it all the time in the back here or on the side. Like gold plated or silver plated teeth. Or fillings. People would get gold fillings. Yeah. Brad Pitt always throws in like that yeah at the end, yeah. Like he's like Canadian, you know? Like, eh. Whatever happened to that singer that was huge like 5 years ago, Ellie Goulding or whatever? Is that a pile of books? Every time I watch this, I notice something different in the scene.
Someone broke into his law firm and bled him to death. Wrote the word greed on the floor.
This guy, his lieutenant knows exactly what to do to get him interested. Now, dude's still standing there. He's waiting. The music in this movie is excellent as well. One of the best things about the soundtrack of this movie, I guess maybe not the soundtrack, but the scoring of this movie, is there's a lot of like trumpet, saxophone, and it gives you that old school detective feel. If you've ever watched, I'm a fan of detective movies. If you've ever watched like detective movies from the 40s, 50s, the 60s, it gives you that like, the wearing the little hat, the detective hat, the saxophone, and the dark nights with the moon, with the street lights or the moonlight shining through their office windows, and trench coat and the rain and the fog. It gives you that vibe, and that's what I love about this movie. They're green. They must have put a green light into the fridge too. I know Alfonso Cuarón, the director of Great Expectations, if you watch that movie, every scene is green. Either someone's wearing green, or the light is green, or the street lamp is green. It's very interesting if you see that. I don't know what the significance of that was. I wonder if there's ever going to be a serial killer with this type of planning and commitment. I don't think there's ever been one. Maybe Ted Bundy? Ted Bundy's just the sheer amount of people he had buried in his house was kind of meticulous.
Out of hell leads up to light.
He's writing it down like, oh shit.
Written in Greece. There are 7 deadly.
He's smiling because he's like, yes, he's getting more into this. I hope he sticks with it. Who came up with the 7 deadly sins? God, there's so much detail in this police station. It's such like a real police station. I had a long phase of having throwing knives and axes and stuff. I definitely missed a few times. Man, this whole week must have just been forecast for rain. What an uncomfortable time. It's cold and rainy. The score to this movie, man, the music is just so like mysterious, no hope. This movie and a movie called Immortal Beloved about Beethoven got me really into classical music. Really, really into classical music. Hearing this, I think this is by Bach. I think it's like Air Suite Number 2 or something by Bach. See, green. All the headlamps were green. Very artistic directors will have a theme in every scene. Everything will be placed there specifically for the scene. Now it's all like CGI backgrounds. And this guy, what was he in? Was he in? Oh, he was the bus driver in Speed. Remember the bus driver that got shot? He was good in that too. He played a good bus driver. God, this was such a beautiful scene. The way this goes back and forth between Brad and Somerset, and they're both their methods of attack. Somerset goes to the place of all knowledge to gather all the knowledge, and Brad Pitt is just like looking at the piles of evidence and trying to find a connection, find a clue. And Somerset goes outside the box and tries to locate the source of what caused these crimes as opposed to just looking at the crimes. God, that would be so dope. I've always wanted to go to this. I love libraries. I've always wanted to go to this library. If I could add more hours to the day, if I could have like a 48-hour day, I'd probably spend like 5 or 6 hours in the library at least twice a week and just get lost in some of the aisles there. Just feel the books. This movie even inspired me as a kid to like check these books out, but I was so young I couldn't really understand the poetry because a lot of these books are just poetry. The Divine Comedy, I don't think I've ever read that. The artwork is so cool in these books. I'm telling you, if you guys saw some of my old artwork, I had faces being ripped apart, screaming so hard that the skin rips apart. That Spider-Man looked awesome. And if you listen to this song in like a more of a beautiful, like let's say you're sitting on a porch in front of a big piece of land and it's fall and the leaves are falling, this song would be reflective of that environment. But when you're listening to it here, it's almost like this melancholy beauty, right? There's that green, gray hue. That's got to be hard to try and read all those books and get in the mind of a killer. He just like Wikipedia'd. That's basically what just happened. He just got like the Wikipedia version summary of the books. Now, is this Somerset's office that was getting scratched off? I never knew. Or is this a different office? Because I don't remember seeing another table. Man, the days before the internet. He's like, come on, man. I'm at work. Why you fucking with me now? After you learn a little bit about Tracy, Brad Pitt's wife in this, you realize she is not made for this city at all. She's too pure. She's too sweet.
I'll be right back.
She is not like a street woman. 2 little cups at the back of the kitchen there. They're green. You see the mugs on the top are green. I don't understand what it is. Even the lamp there is green. It's a dark green. She comes up as such a sweetheart, you know, like a caring person. God, the acting is A tier. It's S tier. Him just wrapping that napkin around his hand. This was a nice scene because you see Somerset laugh for the first time in this whole movie. You look at the tabs on the fucking folders, they're all green. I don't know what green. Can someone tell me in the comments what green signifies in this movie? I'm not going to point it out anymore. You guys can see all the green. Press the keyboards, bro.
Killer would have wanted Gould to take his time to sit and decide which cut to make first.
I don't know if I would have the fortitude
Along the side of his own
to cut my stomach open if I had a gun in my face. I feel like the pain would just be so brutal. What were the virtues?
Yeah, like
Patience, right? That's so crazy. Like the life of a detective. He's like, bro, like he's just about to, they had a full day. He's just about to pass out. And then this one clue keeps them up for like 2 days.
Wasn't too happy, Brad.
At least, like, Brad Pitt's a competent detective. Like the fact that he put her in the safe house just from that little clue shows that he's not like a complete idiot. He knows what he's doing. It's just, I think his mannerisms are just a little immature. She just wakes up. He's just never there. That's got to be such a lonely existence in a vibrating home with all the sirens and noise. I mean, she has the dogs, but it's just like, you can tell, like, there's a reason she hates it. The lamp on the left. I wonder, there has to be a significance of green. In David Fincher's Seven, the use of greens and red throughout the setup, which sins will prove the most fateful to the plot. As we continue to watch, we can see how red and green are used in virtually every shot in the movie. More obvious examples come when Somerset walks through a library filled with green lamps, when Mills explores a dark room and is bathed by a harsh red light. In Latin traditions, the color green means hope. Are his gloves green? Yeah, they are. You know what I always wondered? Why Brad Pitt says, "What is that?" when he pulls out his knife? Like a switchblade, like where you just press it and it pops out. I think switchblades, because switchblades were illegal for a long time. Like you couldn't buy them. And in some states, they're still illegal. If you see this movie for the first time and you're not expecting any of this, it's so cool. Back in the day, this movie was one of a kind. Nobody's seen anything like it. Soon it's gonna become like AI is gonna predict when people commit crimes. AI is gonna like hack into everybody's like records, your health records, what you're looking at online, what you're reading. what you're saying on the phone, and they're literally going to predict when people are going to commit a crime. I really believe that. And this is Somerset's cynical way of breaking down literally what their job is. Puzzle, putting the puzzles pieces together, not necessarily solving the puzzle, but even if you solve the puzzle, there's going to be 10 other puzzles to solve that day. I wonder what the clearance rate of murders are today with all the cameras and technology we have. It's got to be way better than back in the day. Like back in the day, like a 10 or 20% clearance rate had to have been a normal thing. What's this dude's name in the front, dude? He's in like 100 movies. Look at the old school police cars. With the bouncy suspensions. It's almost like this movie has like the Matrix hue. Have you seen the Matrix and it has that green hue? God, look how old and fucking dirty this building is. I wonder where they shot this. Look how dirty that apartment is, man. Look at the medical things next to his bed, the scalpel and shit. This was one of the first, like, murders I've seen in a movie where the killer presumably took this huge commitment, a whole year, to torture and keep someone alive and torture them at the same time. And it's often that, like, when you hear about like a criminal that does like there's an awful crime against children or kills a bunch of people, like my first thought is like this movie, and it's like instead of just putting this person in prison forever or just shooting them in the head or they commit suicide or whatever, I feel like sometimes this type of, I know it's inhumane and stuff, but I'm just saying in like the daydream world, you'd almost want like someone evil to be treated like this so they can realize the suffrage they cost, you know? But just the fact that like a killer would take this much time and effort and commitment to hurting somebody, as a kid, I was just so mind blown. Like, I know, you know, it's a movie, but you think about it and like, if this was real, could you imagine the commitment that would take, man? It was just, and the pain that the person went through, it's just mind blowing. Which is why what makes this movie so great, especially back in the day, because there was just nothing like this before. Not like this dark, you know? It almost like he has smallpox. Like, I don't know if all those red bumps are like a smallpox type thing or just all the injection areas. God, imagine being, even just for a few days, tied up. Could you imagine the pain he went through? Now, you gotta understand, this was like before Kevin Spacey was known. So now when you watch this movie, you hear his voice, you're like, oh, I know who it is. And it kind of kills the suspense of the killer because you can put a face to the killer and it takes that mysterious aspect out of it. But back in the day, people didn't, you know, he wasn't that big of an actor. And also the name John Doe, I think this movie kind of reminded people that John Doe was like something that was used for a long time as like in law, you know, Jane Doe, John Doe, to symbolize any human with any right within a certain law. So that's what John and Jane Doe were used for, were placeholders for just saying anybody within this jurisdiction can, this law is applicable to, and same for police. But I don't think people knew, like, I don't think everyone knew that John Doe meant what it means today. Everybody knows what John Doe or Jane Doe means now, but back then it was like, oh, John Doe, his name is John Doe, okay. Even that little green light in the background, like that little green light, man, just the detail is just unbelievable. God, look, there's people smoking in there. It must have smelled like, dude, the 90s probably smelled like shit. I'm trying to remember back. I can't really put a smell to it, but man, everyone just was breathing in secondhand smoke.
To have this baby, you spoil that kid every chance you get.
God, she does such a good job there. Just like that, going from like that hopeless face to like almost bawling crying is such a, it just shows her talent. So John Doe was paying out of his own pocket for this guy's rent. In that shitty building, by the way. That was a terrible building. I like how this movie mentions like other movie canon, like Star Wars. You know, it's like this movie doesn't exist in its own universe. It actually exists in our universe. Like, I kind of like that. It's so funny, like the way Somerset dresses and the way Mills dresses. Mills has like a funny tie on. He's like such a kid.
If you want to know who
I remember that back in the day, to like get certain like lines of credit or to like buy certain things or like to rent like a vacuum cleaner, let's say, you had to bring like a was it AT&T or Bell Atlantic fucking bill that had your address on it, showing that you have like you're paying something. Because you know you have to remember, back in the day they couldn't just look up your shit. You know what I mean? Everything, like even credit cards, like they had like these things where they would put your credit card in this like little contraption mold thing, and this little, you know, thing would go over it, and it would press your credit card on this type of paper, and the paper would actually copy your credit card, and then they would send that into the credit card company to take the money out the bank. And then that's like when you swipe your credit card in that little thing, it would take like 3 or 4 days for your credit card to even process the charge, and then your bank, you know what I mean? Like it was just weird. Like things weren't just immediate. So getting like any type of line of credit, like you needed to prove like your home and bring like letters with you and shit.
Mills.
That was such a cool effect, man. That looked legit like they were getting shot at. The way they ducked and everything was really, really good. But if you look at the gun that he's holding, it looks very similar to this. The shape of it and everything. You can see the hammer. The two sights there. The distance between the sights. The long nose here. The little dip there. You can see it. So he's holding it like this. There's something on it though. Look at that. Yeah, that is a 1911. You can even see the trigger guard. You see how my trigger guard has the perforated cuts? You can see his has one too. Dude, this movie's masterful. Like where they shot, like how they shot. And there was in this movie actually Brad Pitt like severed his tendon in his elbow or something. Like he actually got hurt doing these stunts here. I think it's when he jumps on the car. I think he fucks his arm up when he jumps on the car. And he has a cast. And the cast in the movie is actually a real cast for his arm. Dude, they were using... What kind of camera were they using where they could run after him like this? Look at the rain. Look how crowded and dirty the city is. God damn. It must be so cold. That's a Beretta. So that's the killer's gun. His wound looks really good too. They did good makeup on him. I wonder if this cop knows like this is some bullshit. I don't even know if this lady's an actress, but she did such a good job. This movie, easily, if like they said like this movie was adapted from a comic book, like a graphic novel, you would believe it. But I think they actually made a graphic novel after this movie. I want to look it up and see what the graphic novel was like, because this movie's shot like a graphic novel, you know? It's huge. It's a big ass apartment too, dude. Where are all these big ass apartments from back in the day? They were probably like $600 a month. Now it's like $10,000 a month for these places. Okay, now we switch to red. We've been seeing green this whole movie. Now we're going to the red side. God, look at all the writing. If you just pause it, moitering in their graves with the worms and beetles climbing and through their flesh and ribs and innards. They stare down at their feet as they walk. Origins of all human evils is not death, life is death. This is just rambling. When I first saw this movie, this was a big twist for me too. I was like, you know, they did such a good job kind of like brushing past that, making it look like a photographer paid the police for information, and Somerset makes him feel guilty saying, hey look, they pay police. Police don't make that much money, and they make extra money from the photographers. And like it made Brad Pitt feel bad, but now Brad Pitt was right. Alright, now they go to the leather shop. And I just can't imagine the pain that the girl was in, man. Having her insides all cut up. You know what? There's an actual recent case that's similar to this way the girl dies in this movie. And it's on YouTube, and the interrogation's on YouTube, and it's a Spanish guy with his girlfriend. She ends up dying, and I guess they were hooking up and she screamed somebody else's name and her boyfriend got pissed and he had like a bottle or something. And I mean, use your imagination, and the bottle broke and he didn't stop. And the cops told him in the interrogation, like, yo, her insides were like ripped out of her body. Like, what did you do? And the guy was so drunk, and he just kind of admitted in the interrogation, like, I don't know, man, I was just really drunk. Like, she screamed someone else's name, and I guess I got mad. And it's such a weird interrogation to watch, because the details are so brutal of what happened to, and I could just imagine the pain she was in. The other thing I like about this movie is, like, no one looks good. No one has tons of makeup. Nobody looks perfect. Sometimes in movies where, like, even period pieces were like Game of Thrones was really good about that. Game of Thrones had people look not really dirty, but dirty. They're not touched up with a ton of makeup. I really, really like that. It really adds to the immersion of this movie. This guy did a really good job
You saw nothing strange.
playing a creep.
No.
See, look at his face. You see, like, all of the lines and imperfections of the skin. This guy looks like pale as shit. Like, God, they did such a good job with the makeup. They're just shocked. They've never seen this before. This has got to be so traumatizing as a detective. About being
Apathy is a solution.
apathetic.
I mean, it's easier to lose yourself in drugs than it is to cope with life.
That's true. That is massively true. And I think that's something our generation is going to be missing. I think people, for the first sign of trouble, are going to leave their relationships, get divorced, or whatever it is. I feel like our parents back in the day really stuck it out. Obviously, there's different reasons for that. Women worked less and stuff like that, so they kind of had to. But I just think people were a little tougher back then and dealt with their issues, and for better or for worse, stuck it out in certain situations. And I feel like people, whether it's their job or relationships, as soon as some trouble happens, they're ducking out. Now you gotta wear like little booties on your shoes when you walk through a crime scene. They're just tracking in all the dirt from outside. So here's my question. Did he do this to her and then give her the options? Like, did he make her take the sleeping pills, fall asleep, and then cut her nose off? And then when she woke up, she had the option to kill herself or take the pills? Or, like, I'm confused about this one. I don't know. Can someone explain to me what's happening here?
Knows, despite her face.
He did it very recently.
So, for pride, I'm gonna cut your nose off. You can either call for help or and you won't bleed out, but you'll be disfigured forever, and your pride will be gone. Or kill yourself before you bleed out. Like, I don't understand. Wow, it's not raining. The rain stopped. I was wrong. I thought it was raining in every scene, but now that I think about it, even the end scene, the rain stopped. This part was so cool when I first saw this as a kid. I wonder what the note says. What's amazing too is he walks through the doors and nobody pays attention because everyone in the city, just like today, everybody's looking at their phones. They just don't pay attention to each other. Just because the sheer amount of volume of people you pass by, you just don't look at everybody. That's John Cassini. I think that was, he's had like 2 lines in this whole movie, but like he's been in a couple other movies. I used to hate lawyers, you know, for like defending like rapists and criminals and stuff. But if you really think about it, the code of ethics of a lawyer, they take an oath to represent their client to the best of their ability, to the full extent of the law. And even if you're, I mean, you know, people will call them like snakes. A lot of people will have negative views about lawyers in general. But when you need one, and if you are a criminal and you do commit a crime, even if you committed the crime, it's the lawyer's job to defend you, find that 1 or 2% of reasonable doubt, and that's their job. They're very like neutral when it comes to that. I know lawyers might have personal feelings when they are defending someone that they know is like a monster, but it's still their job at the end of the day to try and get the best outcome for their client, regardless of what we think about it.
I want you to have expected it.
Now here's a fallacy with this movie. This movie is perfect up to one point that I want to make. And if you haven't seen this movie before, I mean, I guess I'm spoiling it by talking about it now. But it's called Seven murders, right? 7 victims. Yet towards the end of the movie, if you really consider certain ideology, you could argue that there's 8 victims. And that might go to show. There's the other smile for Morgan Freeman. 2 smiles throughout the whole movie. 2 laughs, 2 smiles. This is another great juxtaposition about both of their personalities. You'll see Brad Pitt, like, not tying a tie, maybe doesn't know how to tie a tie, and just, you know, loosens up his tie and puts it right back on. His shirt's wrinkled and dirty. Somerset is making his own tie, knotting his own tie. He's just putting it on, and then like a kid, you know? Like when I was a kid, I didn't know how to tie a tie. I used to have all my ties hung up, already knotted.
So when this big thing happens, you be sure and let me know, because I wouldn't want to miss it.
Oh, don't worry. You won't. You won't miss a thing.
Right there is like another clue of like, oh, this is gonna end badly.
So that they could join you in mocking him.
I don't know if that's like deserving to kill people though, bro. In his own logic, you would leave it up to God, but I guess in his logic, God chose him, so he's justified to kill them. I don't know. Here's the thing, if somebody really did this in the past, there would be copycats. There'd be people who like look up to this guy. There's so many people who love this movie just for the movie. Like if you had a surgeon, like a world-class surgeon that went crazy and just wanted to become a serial killer, could you imagine that? Like mixed with like religious fucking ideals? Oh, it'd be amazing. I was gonna say amazing, but it'd be terrifyingly amazing.
The Lord works in mysterious ways.
It's such a, you could say that about any situation, man. I have such weird ADD. Like my mind is like thinking about right now, like who builds these towers? Like who are the men that build them? Like what is the first step? Like which part of the metal did they fuse together to, like how do they, like that's how my brain is constantly looking at all these things, and just my brain's going off in all these branches. That's my type of ADD. I don't know if there's like autism or whatever the fuck. Everybody's autistic now. But I'm thinking about that like in depth right now. Like I might watch a documentary on it later. You'd have to be suspicious at this point. Like, bro, there's nothing out here. Like, unless he buried someone out there. Dude, even this guy, this fucking Amazon driver, this guy did a good job too. You know, it's interesting. A lot of the violence in this movie happens off screen. You don't really see people get hurt, killed, chopped up, whatever. It's all like implied imagination violence. And especially with this, like, if you ask people who've seen this movie back in the day, they'll be like, yeah, you can see her head in the box. But you never see anybody's head in the box. You never see anybody get killed. You never see anybody get murdered, but...
Tracy.
Yep.
What'd you fucking say?
It's disturbing how
What you fucking say? That's such a good one. That's such a good what you fucking say. The fact that his own precinct sold out his address too sucks.
I took a souvenir.
Now here's the question. If he went there, did he go there intentionally to take her head anyway? Or did he really go there at some weird vulnerable moment of his crazy planned out 7 murder thing, and then really tried to like play husband, and then she was like, who are you, you crazy person? Then he lost his mind because he planned the 5 out so perfectly. What was he gonna do for the last 2 if he never ran into Brad Pitt and Brad Pitt never like knocked on his door? Would he have just killed 2 other random people, and then like how would he have gotten people's attention? Because it seems like the last 2 kills, or last 3, depending on how you want to look at it, were improvised, right? Just based on the detectives. So I would love to ask the writer, or just even the director, David Fincher, like, what do you think would have happened when he completed his masterpiece if he never met the detectives? Would they just been 2 different sinners? And then how would this have been like exposed? Would he just have killed himself? Like, what would have happened? Because, you know, suicide's not something that you could do in his religion. So, like, I don't understand. Like, I guess he would have just turned himself in and then told everybody what he did. Because he improvised these last kills.
Her pretty head.
He couldn't have planned this out because it was by chance that Brad Pitt moved here and took on this case.
Give me your gun.
So he couldn't plan that.
You murder a suspect, David.
See, the fact that he doesn't answer that she's alright gives him the answer. Tell me she's alright, and then he starts talking about, well, if you kill him, he's gonna, this is good.
And for the life of the baby inside of her.
See, that means there's two people that he killed. But I guess they don't consider the baby a person yet. Kevin Spacey was a great actor, man. It's crazy what happened to him, but he got Me Too'd, but he probably would have made so many more dope movies. But I guess he messed up. And just like anyone else, if you see one glimmer of flash, like if someone tortured your dog or killed your girl or your mom or something, and you're toiling over this decision, and if you just get that one flash, like if someone hurt my dog Toby or Ty, and I'm like in this turmoil, and I just see Toby's little face with his tongue sticking out and his little innocence and sweetness, I might do what he just is about to do. Like right there. I've never looked at the actual... Let me see if I can stop it at that moment. By the way, guys, not every time you shoot a gun does the fireball come out. It's like once in a while. It's not every single time. See, this part's a little corny when you hear like the audio. Somebody call somebody. Call somebody. It's like, dude, you're like SWAT in a helicopter. Like, obviously you could call somebody, bro. Call somebody. That kind of took me out of it a little bit. That might be like one flaw of this movie right there. I would really like to watch like the CinemaSins channel where they like say everything wrong with like every movie. I wonder like how many inconsistencies they pick out in this movie. God, what a good movie. Every time I watch this movie, there's just some movies that when they come on, you gotta watch it. I know people don't have TV a lot now, but like if I saw this on TV, I'd probably have to watch it. Excellent. Excellent fucking movie. If you guys have any suggestions on movies, I would really, really love to know. I put this movie as an S tier. Obviously, it's just one movie, so, this doesn't say everything about my taste and personality, but it's an example of my taste and my personality. I've seen this movie so many times. I love it so much. I didn't force myself to do this for this YouTube video. I actually was excited to do this. So, based on this movie, if there's other movies out there that you think are this caliber that you would love me to watch and analyze and talk about or react to for the first time if I've never seen it, please let me know in the comments below. Give me your suggestions on what type of movies you like, whether it's a crime, mystery, psychological thriller, sci-fi, horror that you think are just S tier movies. I may have seen them. I've seen a lot of movies, but there's also a ton of movies I haven't seen. Let me know in the comments because I would love to add another S tier movie to my personal life list that I've seen and enjoyed and will possibly enjoy again in the future and watch a bunch of times. So let me know. Hope you guys enjoyed this. I think this movie's brilliant. I think it's a masterpiece of cinema. I think for the time it was groundbreaking. It was boundary pushing. It was so violent, yet you don't see any of the violence. I think everyone acted tremendously, even the background actors and the side supporting roles. I think the thematic color and imaging, or the mood imaging color, whatever theme that was put into this movie is so cool. You can notice all types of things every time you watch it, something new in the background or something intentionally put there to tell a story without words. I think is so brilliant, and I have nothing bad to say about this movie aside from that helicopter commenting, call somebody, call anybody. It's like, bro, you wouldn't talk like that. You'd calling HQ and saying like, hey, we need backup, like get an ambulance out here, something fucked up just happened. But those are my thoughts. This movie is like a 9 out of 10, maybe a 10 out of 10. I think it might be closer to a 10 out of 10, at least a 9.5 out of 10. And I can't really think what would make it better, except maybe more of an explanation of like what would have happened if he didn't like Like, did he really plan these last 2 killings? Why did he feel so vulnerable to go play husband? Like, I don't know. And how come they don't count the baby as a third person? So, but anyway, I love you guys. Go to my Patreon, patreon.com/tvgg if you want to support me. I could really use your support. It's only $1 to see the uncensored content or the early uploads. I'm going to be doing this more often. So hopefully I can have every other night a video uploaded for something for October, like a creepy movie, a creepy show. Or I'm going to try primarily do movies. Great scary movies. I love scary movies. So I'll try and have anything I upload be a reaction or an analysis of an S tier movie. So thanks, and take care of yourselves. Be good. Be safe. And I love you. Thank you for all the support. We really do appreciate it. All right, guys. Have a good one. Bye, gamers.